Many famous proclamations have been made about history itself, but this Hispanic Heritage Month, there is one that strikes a chord. Multi-hyphenate Emmanuel Acho recently said, "American history is much more like an autobiography, written about white people, by white people. The figures that we read about in our textbooks were written about by those that hold the most power in society, mostly affluent white men writing about others similar to themselves. But what about all the trailblazers that do not represent the status quo?" This is Bet You Didn't Know: Latin and Hispanic contributions through history. Television's impact on culture over the last 90 plus years is hard to quantify, and the transition from black and white to color was a game changer. Born in Guadalajara, Mexico, Guillermo Gonzalez Camarena was a pioneer in television's evolution. He received the first color TV patent for what is called the chromoscopic adapter in 1940. The purpose of the device was to turn the standard black and white TVs of the time into color. He sold his first set in 1954 and filed additional patents for color TV systems in 1960 and 1962. It's hard to imagine life without cell phones, even though they really haven't been around that long.
Hello, who's calling? Zach Morris.
The first was created by Motorola in 1973, and the now ubiquitous iPhone is just a teenager. It became available in June 2007, but the so-called cellular revolution would not have been possible if it weren't for Brazil's Roberto Lendel de Moura, who performed the first wireless audio voice transmission in Sao Paulo around 1896.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ellen Ochoa was not only the first Hispanic American woman in space,
and I must say it's a little bit hard to keep my concentration because I'm looking out the aft windows at some great views of South America right now,
but is also the co-inventor of numerous patents that have aided in the ability to capture and analyze images. Her contributions to astroscience led her to become the director of the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, only the second woman and the first Hispanic person to hold the job. Sylvia Rivera, whose father is from Puerto Rico, her mother from Venezuela, is said to have put the T in LGBTQ+ activism. She's a veteran of the Stonewall Inn uprising in 1969 and made a life out of turning activism into legislation. She pushed for trans people to be included in New York's Sexual Orientation Non-Discrimination Act and was pivotal in getting the gay rights movement to include trans rights. Take a look at this photo. How many stoplights do you see? Guatemalan professor and entrepreneur Luis Van Ahn is the creator of CAPTCHA technology, those sometimes hilarious, sometimes irritating photo quizzes that keep the web a little more secure. He's also the co-founder of popular language learning app Duolingo. Dolores Huerta co-founded United Farm Workers of America with civil rights activist Cesar Chavez, a labor union that works to create safer conditions for farm workers in the U.S. The duo created the organization in the early 1960s, a time when farm workers in the United States were mostly from Central America and often working under grueling conditions. And Mexican-American journalist Maria Elena Salinas was at one time the longest-running female news anchor on U.S. television. In her 37-year career at Univision, she covered stories impacting Latin and Hispanic communities that were often not covered by mainstream media outlets. In an interview, she spoke about what her decades-long career has meant to her over the years.
I can't think of anything better that I'd like to do with my life than to be a communicator and to feel that somehow my work has contributed to the growth of the Hispanic community and how I can bridge that gap between us and them, and eventually we'll just all be us.